We often reflect on the role that our founders and thousands of other Alpha Gamma Delta sisters have played in the growth of the fraternity. However, we tend to neglect the function that the fraternity has played in greater society, as well as the effects that societal events have had on Alpha Gamma Delta. In actuality, the evolution of fraternity, collegiate, and Greek life, and the world as a whole are intertwined, with each exerting influence on the other. Though they may not have realized it at the time, our 11 founders played an important role in advancing the role of women in the early 20th century. To a large degree, women entered traditionally female professions, although a woman was often expected to retire once she married or became pregnant. From its earliest days, Alpha Gamma Delta emphasized diverse career opportunities for women through the role of advisors, as well as regular articles in the quarterly that highlighted the various careers of alumni. Architect and artist Emily Butterfield, along with the other founders, became an important role model for undergraduates. Within just 15 years of the fraternity's founding, Alpha Gamma Delta entered the international arena with the installation of Tau chapter at the University of Toronto in 1919. This began a long tradition of Alpha Gamma presence in Canada, with 19 chapters and more than 1,500 subscribers to the Alpha Gamma Delta Quarterly. The installation of this chapter marked an important moment in the growth of Alpha Gamma Delta. As time went on, fraternity leaders continued to fine-tune the organization. The 1935 convention marked a subtle philosophical shift in the fraternity that was to become increasingly important in future years. The fraternity officially recognized the fact that when a woman joins Alpha Gamma Delta, she becomes a lifetime member. Members began to think more thoroughly about how the fraternity might serve the needs of women throughout their lifetime, not just during the college years and immediately thereafter. With high unemployment across the nation, the 1930s were economically challenging for most Americans and many Canadians. Alpha Gamma Delta had to plan carefully to preserve both national and chapter finances. Despite the economy, Alpha Gamma Delta continued its phenomenal growth. The fraternity celebrated its 30th anniversary in 1934, and the quarterly boasted more than 6,000 subscribers. The Depression, as well as changing social conditions, required change and adaptability on the part of the fraternity. To remain financially solid, expenses had to be shared by more members, and larger collegiate chapters emerged. Students also began to move more freely between college and university systems. Many young women were transferring to universities from smaller colleges or junior colleges, and Alpha Gamma Delta experienced an increasing number of pledges who were sophomores or juniors. Often these women did not have the experience to immediately step in as chapter officers, so the fraternity responded by making alumni advisors a more active part of undergraduate chapters and developing more comprehensive training programs for chapter initiates. Though Alpha Gams dedicated themselves in patriotic service throughout the years, some of the fraternity's most notable actions took place during World War II. Throughout the war, the fraternity maintained a friendship plan, where members and their families extended hospitality to relatives of other members who were stationed away from home. Since Canada had entered World War II on the side of the Allies some time before the United States did, the first chapters to participate in war projects were the 5 Canadian chapters. In late 1940, Grand Council informed the Canadian chapters that whatever money they raised for approved war projects would be matched dollar for dollar by the fraternity. $5,000 was raised almost immediately. One unexpected result of the war was its impact on the emergence of women in the workforce, as well as the increase in attendance by women in college. Enrollments had dropped significantly as men were called to war, and many colleges and universities began considering the admission of higher numbers of female students. After the war, enrollment at universities rose quickly. Women enjoyed modest gains during this period. However, similar to the end of World War I, many women were displaced from their jobs due to men returning from the war. American suburbia blossomed, and there was a new emphasis on women's domestic role that took hold well into the 1950s. These years brought change to campuses in the United States and Canada. Beginning in the late 1950s, curfews for college women were slowly extended beyond the strict limitations of the past. On some campuses, senior women were allowed to set their own hours. More sweeping social change, however, was on the horizon. 1959 marked an important milestone for Alpha Gamma Delta as Theta Sigma Upsilon was absorbed into the fraternity. Theta Sigma Upsilon had been founded in 1921 and held 13 undergraduate chapters in strong positions on campuses across the country. During the winter of 1958 to 1959, the National Council of Theta Sigma Upsilon petitioned for a union of its membership and assets with Alpha Gamma Delta. Grand Council determined that the petition had been well considered and that there was a general similarity of purposes, aims, and types of members. The union was effective June 29, 1959. Members of the National Council of Theta Sigma Upsilon and the undergraduate chapter presidents were initiated at convention, and Theta Sigma Upsilon chapters became chapters of Alpha Gamma Delta. The 1970s brought new challenges for Alpha Gamma Delta and the Greek community as a whole. The political and social upheavals of the 1960s led to decreasing participation in the Greek system and other organizations, and fraternity enrollment dropped nationwide. Fraternities struggled to adapt to changes in society. The Quarterly noted that the fraternity must constantly evaluate itself and its policies and meet the changes and challenges in higher education with imagination, with wisdom, and with courage. In the wake of troubled times for fraternities and sororities, Alpha Gamma Delta established the Founders Memorial Foundation in 1964 to help support the fraternity financially. Although many men's fraternities had already established foundations by the 1960s, Alpha Gamma Delta was one of the first NPC groups to establish a foundation. Today, the Alpha Gamma Delta Foundation is critical to the strength of our fraternity. By 1972, sororities and fraternities across the country began to report a slow rise in membership. The New York Times surveyed student attitudes across the country and concluded that fraternity and sorority life had become marked by more academic seriousness and social consciousness. For the fraternity, the 1977 International Convention brought the adoption of a revised constitution and standing rules, as well as the announcement of an expanded public relations program and new fraternity handbooks. Delegates also approved plans to build a new permanent international headquarters building at 8701 Founders Road in Indianapolis. The new headquarters was proudly presented to the fraternity in June of 1979 at the 75th Anniversary Convention. Education and leadership development became a major focus for Alpha Gamma Delta in the 1980s. The Leadership Conference, which was designed to train collegiate officers and advisors on the various officer duties, was first held in 1982. The fraternity's wellness program, It's Okay to Care, followed in 1985. Additional programs included Double Vision in 1988, From Classroom to Boardroom in 1993, and See Through the Haze to a Clearer Purpose, a highly effective program that worked to help eradicate hazing, which debuted in 1996. Women continued to juggle the demands of family and career. By 1987, women made up 44% of the workforce and filled 33% of all managerial jobs. Many women were forced to work to help support their families, and single mothers were much more common. To more fully meet the needs of women who are coping with rapidly changing roles and responsibilities, in 1992, the fraternity launched a new program entitled The New Older Woman. In 1993, the Alpha Gamma Always program encouraged alumni participation and support well beyond the undergraduate years. In 1994, the fraternity began to look ahead to a very important milestone, the Centennial celebration. A committee was appointed to evaluate and revise the fraternity's organizational structure and develop a blueprint for the future. The Archives Committee undertook an important and deeply emotional project, the hunt to locate the grave sites of all the Alpha Gamma Delta founders. Sisters Jane Graff and Joan Randolph Hatch began to research the lives and final resting sites of each Alpha Gamma Delta founder. The life and work of each founder was recognized with a special medallion placed on each founder's gravestone. Jane noted that this project gave her a special feeling of closeness to and love for our founders. By the time it reached its 100th anniversary in 2004, Alpha Gamma Delta boasted 180 installed collegiate chapters, more than 250 alumni groups, and over 150,000 initiated sisters. The road traveled over the century had brought with it its share of challenges, including 2 world wars, a period of grave economic circumstances, and challenging societal notions toward fraternal organizations, along with its share of amazing accomplishments, like the continually evolving role of women in society, the reemergence of Greek life, and exploding use of technology. Through it all, the fraternity navigated its course with grace, confidence, and wisdom born from lessons learned along the way, giving us no doubt of the remarkable strides still yet to come.